Blog Talk Radio.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, Marilyn.
Oh, yes, this is Marilyn, and I'm talking with Tony.
Yes, I am. We're live now. Well, hello, my friends. This is Tony C. Davis, Success with Tony D, and I want to welcome you to the show today. We got a little late start, but today I want to welcome Miss Marilyn Redmond to the show. Marilyn, how are you?
I'm doing very well, considering I'm sitting in a house without any electric power.
Oh, wow. What happened?
We are having a tremendous storm out here on the West Coast, and even people with boats were told to secure them down, and the wind is blowing mighty and very harshly, and my power went out an hour ago.
Oh, wow. I'm sorry to hear that. I hope everything is okay. But
well, when I get my power back, it will be.
Okay. Well, I do appreciate you for joining us on the show today. And for our listeners, again, this is Miss Marilyn Redmond, and I'm going to let Marilyn tell you a little bit about herself.
Oh, well, I'd be glad to. I am a holistic health healer and counselor, and I write about spiritual and metaphysical topics, and I speak and give classes on raising your into higher consciousness of love. And I love doing artwork. I see angels and the spirit around you, and I love and enjoy being able to help people see what their angels look like, and do family portraits also, and animal portraits. I love doing animals, and so I have a variety of activities that I'm involved with.
Oh, okay, that's great. So where do you live? You're talking about the storms and things. Where you reside? I'm
a half an hour south of the Seattle airport in a little town called Edgewood, Washington.
Oh, okay. So how long have you been in holistic health?
Well, I actually started approximately 30 years ago. I was very ill and had some very traumatic experiences going on in my life because I was in domestic violence. And so it was, I needed to get answers that worked, and the answers I was getting at the time were actually making it worse. I discovered prescriptions don't actually solve problems, and actually were killing me. My body said I was dying. And so I looked for alternative answers of how do I not want to die, and ended up finding more and more answers in holistic health.
Well, for those that may not be familiar with the term holistic health or holistic healing, let's give us a little more information about what that exactly is, what it entails.
Well, it's looking at the person from all parts of who you are, all your being, rather than just a segment, rather than just looking at your lungs or your heart or your fingers or, having pneumonia. It's looking at the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual parts of who you are and bringing them back into the higher consciousness of which they were created, which is a higher energy of love. And when you're in a loving place, instead of the fear that our society perpetuates, then you actually can come back into love, and it is possible to do that. So as you heal your spiritual connection to a higher power, most people call that love, higher energy that vibrates within us, the spirit. And as you reach into that higher energy, then your health does resume, and your emotional life comes into balance. Your mental frame of mind becomes more positive because you see what is true and what isn't true, and your physical body will actually manifest from the inner health inside. So instead of trying to heal yourself from the symptoms, we heal ourselves from the inside out, and that spirit manifests into the physical health.
Well, let's go back for a minute. Now, you mentioned you were involved or actually in a domestic violence relationship. I guess you suffered some domestic violence.
Right.
What has been that? How did that affect you? As a woman? I mean, over the years.
Well, I know today the whole thing was set up. It's kind of been my path in this lifetime. I was raised in domestic violence and with all kinds of abuse. I literally was a Cinderella. And when my mom remarried, that's exactly what happened. And so when I went off to college to become a teacher, I met somebody who I related to. And guess what? The reason I related to him was that he came from the same kind of a family history that I did. And so, needless to say, we became a couple and got married and had a family, and things got worse and worse because we were reenacting the family that we grew up from and didn't know how to do it any differently to relate. So we didn't have living skills. I was emotionally 3 years old, and he was maybe 5 years old. We were both shut down emotionally, looking for somebody to take care of us and hold us up and be emotionally there for us because we couldn't do it for ourselves. We were two little kids and trying to survive as one person, and it doesn't work. It's also called codependency. So, learning how to outgrow the fear of and victimization and survival has been my path in life, and I was in that domestic violent marriage for 30 years, and when I came out of that situation, it was a matter of I am going to take responsibility for my life and find out what it is to grow up and mature, or am I just going to stay a victim? And I volunteered to be a victim in that marriage because I'd been raped early in our marriage. And when I left the marriage finally, which was really traumatic for me to be out on my own as a 3-year-old in society, looking like an adult, I said I'm not going to volunteer to be a victim again. And I prayed and looked for all kinds of answers that would give me the route out of staying immature and without any answers of how to do it differently.
Well, let me go back for a minute. You said you were out in the world as a 3-year-old. You're talking about mentally and physically, emotionally?
I was talking about emotionally. I shut down at the age of 3 through the trauma I went through. I literally saw my dad beat up my mom when I was 3 years old and thought he was going to beat me up next. And I created an emotional shell around me. I call it my turtle shell. And there I lived very well. And I went through life looking wonderfully I went through school and was valedictorian. I went to college and graduated with honors. But inside I was an emotional 3-year-old. I had no living skills. So I dressed like a teacher, looked like a teacher, quacked like a teacher, but inside I was still just a scared little kid.
So you can really relate to women who have actually been in those situations.
Yes, and I try to help them when I can. And that's part of my counseling is to help people, not just women, but men, because the men are just emotionally immature as the women, and they're both struggling to try to make it at the expense of the other person, of course. And both people they don't feel empowered. So my counseling is about empowering people to gain the actual truth of who they are, that they've always had that power within their heart. The courage has always been there. It's a matter of it's safe finally to open your heart and let that love come out and create a loving life. And what happens with victims is we're so shut down and scared, and we're inside this little shell of protection that the love can't come to us, and we can't accept it or acknowledge it because we don't even know what it feels like or how to deal with it. In my case, I was never nurtured as a child. So I was afraid of love, and to make the decision. Love is a decision, and to make that decision to move into a whole new lifestyle instead of coming from fear, but now to be a love-based person, that is a huge transition of outgrowing the old and becoming a new person, and that's not an easy place. Most people don't really ever grow up and mature, I'm finding out, and that's not an always. I have a friend that says growing up is not for sissies.
That's a good one right there. Well, looking at more of your information, I came across a word, and I'm going to try to pronounce this, Qigong. Yeah,
it's called Qigong. It's a Chinese
Qigong,
word.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly is that?
Well, if you've heard of Reiki or acupuncture or flower essences, anything that raises the energy in the body, those are different methods. Qigong is a method to raise the energy in your body, the spirit inside, into a higher consciousness, and we remove the barriers and blocks to that. Chinese medicine says that if your energy isn't flowing, you're going to be sick, and that's exactly what I've discovered in my experience, is that fear creates a barrier to love. And if you're going to remove the fear, and it can be, like in my case, afraid to come out into being an emotionally available person, because I was too scared to from my experience, which I described. And so those blockages for fear of, in my case, growing up, fear of being physically hurt, which I was, fear of being attacked and physically and sexually. So when you have all those fears, you're literally blocking out the sunlight of the spirit. And so to release those blockages, and you also have a mental frame of mind that keeps you in resistance from love, because love hurts. When my stepdad took a 2x4 to me to beat me one day, and I tried so hard to be perfect so I wouldn't be hurt because of the Cinderella types of stuff going on. And I said, "Why? What did I do wrong? Why are you hurting me?" And he says, "Well, I'm only doing this because I love you." Well, if people are hurting you and calling it love, who needs that, right? So to create those barriers, you try to protect yourself from being hurt one more time. And what you really do are stopping the love from coming in or from your accessing love. So the things, flower essences, I use Bach flower essences, and also some locally here called Tree Frog Farm essences. They're a energy, loving energy. Instead of a drug or a prescription, you take these loving energies and you actually, it's homeopathic. You actually ingest them. And with the Qigong, it helps move out the old negative energy, so you actually can finally access the love of your creation that you were created in.
So what are some of the major differences between the Eastern medicine and the Western medicine?
Well, that's a good question, because I believe Western medicine is gradually changing to Eastern. Western medicine addresses the symptoms. You know, you have a cold, you have the flu, you need a surgery. They always are addressing the symptoms and never the root cause. And Eastern medicine addresses the spiritual problem. Where did this come from? Where's the emotional problem that is causing the physical symptom? And my job as a counselor is to help identify where did this illness come from. This is a huge change, because when you look at the root cause, then you don't have a symptom. You don't need a prescription. You don't need to drug yourself, which they're toxic and they're poison, and in my case, they were killing me. So, you know, poison does kill people. When I was a little girl, and under my mother's kitchen cabinet, there were bottles of poisons that had skull and crossbones on them, and I was told never to touch those. Those are poison. Well, I've discovered that the majority of the things we're given by doctors are poisonous, and actually I don't choose to touch them today either, because I know that flower essences and Qigong and acupuncture and all Reiki, those things can remove the fear and the blockages, so I don't have to have drugs in my system. I can actually transform my energy into a higher consciousness of love. And that's the healing force. So you mentioned these flower essences. Do we find those types of, let's say, essential oils? Would that fall in that category? I'm not sure. Exactly. You're right on. Flower essences are the same thing as essential oils, only they're ingested. And usually the aromatherapy is, you know, you can inhale the higher energy. Incense also does the same kind of thing as aromatherapy. So anything you can do that raises that awareness is very healthy.
Okay, all right. Well, I also read something about therapeutic hypnosis, and, you know, what exactly is that, and is it widely used in the United States?
No, I actually think I'm probably one of the first people to come and understand how valuable it is. In the past, hypnosis was limited to people who wanted to stop smoking or people who wanted to stop eating and be, you know, the overeaters that were having trouble with that. So hypnosis was used in wonderful ways, but we can actually take it further into seeing what the root cause is. And so in therapeutic hypnosis, when a person goes, I'm internationally board certified to do regression therapy. I'm also on the American Board of Hypnotherapy. And when I do regression, depending on the reason the person has come for help, we can go into the subconscious and ask the subconscious. It will tell you the answers. It will tell you the truth of where did this start, where did it come from, what was the problem, and what is the healing information. So when you go into the subconscious, it's kind of like looking at an iceberg. The tip of the iceberg is what you see, but the bigger part of the iceberg is below the water. That's our subconscious, and that's what's running our lives. And so if you address what you can't see, that's the part that's like the tail wagging the dog. We can stop that tail from wagging, look and see what the problem is, and address it in a healthy, healing way. We can resolve these issues with love, and it's really a softer, easier way to do it, because talk therapy, you can get very emotionally drained and involved, but with hypnotherapy, you go into hypnosis is really the same as meditation. I just am a coach through it. And so when you coach people through this higher state of calmness and peace and serenity, looking at it from without the intensity of the trauma of the time, and then start sending love for loving resolutions, ways to look at it in a more healing, forgiving way. You have to forgive those situations and take responsibility that these were my lessons to learn in life, and I have to learn compassion, forgiveness, gratitude, and unconditional love for these situations. And when you take responsibility for your life, it doesn't run your show anymore.
So let me ask you, when it comes to this holistic medicine, holistic health, and, things like therapeutic hypnosis, do you receive resistance from the conventional medical community?
I've been very fortunate. I haven't at this point, thank goodness. I've been doing this now for 20-some years, or about almost 25 years. And I've discovered that you can't fight love. When you're helping somebody to improve their life in a loving way, there's nothing to attack. It's when people are causing difficulties and doing it so that the person's at harm, there could be some huge consequences. But I've discovered that when you're working with love, love heals and love brings peace, and usually it goes very smoothly. And like one of my clients one day when I was helping her with a past life regression, and she says, "Is that what I do? I don't have to do that anymore." So how could somebody, when you're finally discovering what you can do better to improve your life, I don't know where there would be conflict.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the reason I ask that, I know at least in the area where I am in Georgia and certain other states, there have been a lot of uproar about the naturopathic doctors, holistic medicine, conflicting with the conventional medicine, and people have been in conflict about that for a while. And I've seen it, I've heard of it, and so that's why I asked that question.
Well, I think it's a good question because there is a controversy about it, and that's probably maintained by the people that have you might say the particular stronghold, which is the medical profession. They don't want to lose their clients. And
well, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah, the pharmacies don't want to lose their clients for the drugs. And, I've been called a research journalist, and what I discovered is the AMA was started in the early 1900s by Rockefeller to sell and promote his pharmaceuticals. So they have a vested interest in profits and controlling their clients to keep coming back to take more and more. And then they sell more and more. In my case, the clients don't keep coming back. And I don't think keep selling more because they have worked out of those situations and they've resolved them.
Wow. And that's something you rarely hear of, a person wanting to have a client and then not have the client come back because you're actually trying to address the issues and encourage that person for healing.
Well, the point is to help them be able to help themselves. Yep. And so instead of enabling a person and keeping them subject to, well, we'll see you in 2 weeks. We'll see you, and well, you need another prescription. You need to go to the hospital. There's usually, I've discovered, healthier ways to handle those issues. They're usually actually more reasonable, and they actually are effective and work.
Wow. So what would someone expect, what do your clients expect when they make an appointment with you?
Well, that's a good question. Some people have never done any meditation, so that they're concerned about that, and some people have never done hypnosis before. So if that's the case, I put them through a little story in sleeping. See, hypnosis and meditation is just, you're in that state twice a day. So when people are afraid of it, I tell them, well, when you were just waking up in the morning, but you weren't quite awake, I says you were in a meditative state until you put your feet on the ground, and then your body and your spirit come back together as a unit. And when you go to sleep at night and you're just dozing off, that's that meditative state where your spirit is actually not in your body. You're accessing a higher level of awareness. So you already have done this and experienced it every day of your life, but now we're going to do it with awareness. And so I take them through a little journey, a little story I have to help them just experience what it's like to be consciously aware of being in a higher place with their thinking, and so that they can see it's a safe place. And then from there we go on to actually address the issues that need to be looked at. So I try to make them as comfortable in the process as possible so they're relaxed, because the more relaxed you are, the better you have access to your inner information. That says, be still and know that I am God. That silent voice will tell you the answers. The truth can come out if you are very relaxed. And that's what's going on with our culture. The more the violence is on television, the more the violent video games and the violent movies and everything keeps you from being relaxed. You can't connect with that inner guidance if you're under stress and duress. And so to help them be as calm and relaxed as possible helps them to access the answers they're really looking for.
I heard somebody say that everything is energy, and as we, promote, with all the violence and things that, happen and we see on TV, that just promotes more and more violence, would you say?
Well, this is my experience completely. I have discovered everything is vibration, and like produces like. So this is what domestic violence is about. If one person is really threatened, and they find someone who's threatened also, and then they take it out, conflict on each other, and it escalates. So if you can transpose that into learning to have love in your life and unconditional love and compassion for others, then that's what enhances and that's what escalates. I actually was able to do that in my family last night. I had some people for dinner, family members, and one person I wasn't so sure I really wanted to come to be part of the meal, but it was one of those situations where he was going to be included, and I had to kind of go along with it. And in the meantime, yesterday afternoon, I came to a situation where I could finally understand and have compassion for this young man of what he really has gone through in his childhood. And I saw him from a loving, understanding point of view. And when we sat down around the table last night, it was just all in harmony, everybody helping each other, everybody was working together and continuing to be supportive of each other. It was a beautiful situation. So what we need to learn is to change ourselves. When I changed my concept and my awareness of seeing this man rather than a problem in my life, I saw the woundedness of what he's been through. He's ADHD, and it's a long family history of why he's having such difficulties in his life, and he doesn't have any life skills. And so when I realized how wounded he was and how he really just doesn't understand what's going on, he doesn't have any tools. And so I saw him from this whole new light, and it just all of a sudden, everybody at the table, it was just like we were all in harmony.
Sometimes it takes that, to kind of understand what a person has been through, and you can actually feel that compassion and empathy for them.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I think we need to do that.
Say that again?
Oh, I think we need to do that in our society.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. So tell our listeners how they might be able to contact you.
All right. I have a website called Angelica's Gifts. My main angel, her name is Angelica, and she has given me many spiritual gifts to help people with the kinds of things we've been talking with today. And you can contact me through Marilyn, Marilyn, at angelicasgifts.com, ANGELICASGIFTS.com. And you'll get me or my web. Angelica's.
Let me get that. I want to make sure I write that down so I can put that on the site. That's Marilyn at, what was that now?
Okay, I'll spell it out again. It's ANGELICASGIFTS. Angelica's Gifts, one word.
Okay.
.com. And then I have a lot of books on Amazon.com, and I also have a blog at Marilyn Redmond blogspot.com. And I also have, if people forget my site, they can Google me at Marilyn Redmond on Google. And my phone number is 253-845-4907. 253-845-4907. And there are a lot of YouTubes on YouTube that I have lectures and about empowerment, healing domestic violence, mind control. I have a lot of messages from Spirit on there, all kinds of different YouTubes that are lots of interviews. And so people could find me on YouTube also.
Okay. All right, Miss Marilyn Redmond, and I appreciate you for coming on the show. And any final words for our listeners?
Well, I'm just so pleased that I was here today, and I want to thank you. I appreciate your giving me this interview. I would like to encourage people to understand that it's all an inside job. When I changed, and I'm actually become fearless, and when I've left my fear behind and moved into being a fearless person, my life changed. The only person I can change is me. So I have literally walked out of hell and into heaven on earth, and I create my own reality today, which is actually becoming awesome. And so we can change if we truly want to. It takes a challenging person who with perseverance to continue the path of walking a spiritual path. But the rewards are wonderful. You can move into bliss and love and harmony and enjoy life. I believe we're here to enjoy life.
All right, then. We do appreciate it again. This is Miss Marilyn Redmond from Seattle, Washington, right?
Yes,
Okay. All right, guys, I'll put her information on the site. And Miss Marilyn, we again appreciate you for coming on the show and look forward to hearing more from you.
Oh, I'd love to do that.
All right. Well, you all have a great night, and this is Tony signing off. You all be blessed.
Well, have a good evening, too. Good night.